Well, look who it is, Mr. Tyler Cope, ladies and gentlemen. Tyler, welcome to the pod. Thanks for making it in here, my friend.
It's all right. The pod's saved now. You guys can get started.
We're saved. We're saved.
We're saved.
Thank God.
Oh, God.
Thank God. Welcome back to The Flop, the place where we dive into business failures and hope to learn something and have a little fun while doing so. I'm your host, Wes Rissell, and with me, I typically have my two co-hosts, Josh and Tyler, but right now I just have Josh because Tyler's being late. Bowman, how are we doing today?
I'm doing better because I'm clearly the best bestie at this moment, and I've always wanted to be here.
If we go back to the first episode, I would say you came a long way, Bowman. You've come a long way from being 15 minutes late for your first podcast episode to beating me onto the podcast this time. So applause to you.
Is the slate wiped clean? Am I forgiven for being late to the first podcast?
I think so. I think now Tyler is the griefed person here, the person that gets all the grief for being late to the podcast. So you're clean slate, Bowman. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, we have another exciting episode for you logged in today. And what we're going to be doing is talking with Nate Powell. Now, Nate is an entrepreneur. He helps advise businesses in the startup space here in Greensboro, North Carolina, or the Triangle/Triad, if you're local to the area. And Nate's been a great mentor to both Tyler and I as we had to start our previous business, and super excited to have him on the show. Nate, how you doing, buddy? Great to have you on.
Yeah, doing great. Thanks for having me on, Wes. Bowman, good to see you. Yeah, really excited though to be here. I was just thinking today, we've actually never met in person.
You're right, because we kind of got started in the day of COVID, right?
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to change that sometime very soon, Nate. Again, Nate, super happy to have you on the show here. I believe today we're going to go over a business that you had in the cybersecurity space. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. That's correct. Yeah.
Nice. Excited to learn a little bit more about that and kind of what you learned and all the experiences that you had in that adventure there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to telling that story. I haven't really talked to many folks about it, but yeah, I think a lot of good lessons in there.
Well, let's head into everybody's favorite segment first, fails of the week. Guys, how did we fail this week?
I got this. I'd like to step up on this one immediately. It's a quick background. I was like, yeah, I'm crushed this week. I'm gonna reward myself every time I go to the grocery store by getting a nice kombucha. Really good for the gut health, you know? I am super sensitive to caffeine and am always on and hyper focused. It's just like a thing. I've been drinking these before bed, and my number one goal this week was to get great sleep. So I've been drinking caffeinated drinks before bed. It's tea. It's black tea.
Oh yeah, it is tea.
I've been drinking black tea before bed. Yep. I had such bad sleep all week. I slept like half sleep schedule, like 4 hours a night, multiple nights because of this. And I didn't realize it till the fourth night. Such a fail. Total flop.
So why are you getting so crunchy, Bowman? A nice kombucha. Most people be like, I'm going to have a beer, or, I'm going to have, I don't know, some other, a boba tea. I don't know, insert your favorite drink here. But you went kombucha.
Yeah, kombucha, kava. Look, I'm on the health train, baby. Okay? I'm trying to catch up to all my doctor friends,
Nate, what about you? How'd you fail this week?
Coincidentally, my fail is also caffeine related. I was supposed to spend most of my time working with startup founders. We had a meeting, young woman down in High Point, and she was driving up to Greensboro. So we're going to meet for coffee. Roll up to the coffee shop. I'm walking in. And as I'm walking up, I'm like, yeah, so I know I'm supposed to be at a place, the coffee shop that has, like most places, has green something. There's a lot of green something coffees around here. Mm-hmm. And I was at one that it did not have the word green in it. So I immediately knew, and then it dawned on me where I was supposed to be. It was on the other side of town. So I had to send her a quick message and say, yeah, I'll be there in 15 minutes.
I blame Google. It's Google's fault, Nate.
Yeah, for
Exactly.
sure.
Exactly.
Well, look who it is, Mr. Tyler Cope, ladies and gentlemen. Tyler, welcome to the pod. Thanks for making it in here, my friend.
It's all right. The pod's saved now. You guys can get started.
We're saved. We're saved.
We're saved.
Thank God.
Oh God.
Thank God. So, Tyler, what's your fail of the week? I'm just not going to get you any warm up time. Just having you hop right in there.
Joining this podcast 53 minutes late.
I told everyone that Bowman's slate has now been cleared. You are now the late person of the podcast. My fail of the week has to do with my new computer that Bowman helped me put together. Shout out to Bowman. And part of the computer is the lights they just turn on. And I don't like a lot of lights. I have a new daughter, and sometimes she's in the room and she's sleeping. I want nothing to risk her waking up. I spent like 2 hours trying to download different softwares to control the lights on this case, only to find out there's a dang button on the case that just turns them off.
Yeah.
So that was my fail. A bunch of wasted time when there was a very, very easy answer of clicking a dang button.
See, that's how we know you're not a gamer, Wes, because you're like, oh, too many lights, like, oh, too many fans with lights. Like, I want to turn those off. Like, no, you want more lights. Like, that's how you know your computer's strong.
Exactly.
The more LEDs, the more powerful it is.
That's right.
Well, let's hop into the interview here. Nate, are you ready?
Let's do this.
Let's do the thing.
All right.
So, Nate, I know we were talking about this previously about your cybersecurity business.
Mm-hmm.
But for all the viewers out there, can you just give a background to the business itself and kind of how you got it started?
It was not my idea. And I'm not trying to throw blame to my co-founder or anything. He's actually a really, really smart guy and understands cybersecurity really, really well. They had one of the startup weekends that they do around the country or globe, I guess, not just the country. I wasn't going there as a mentor. I was going there because I wanted to start. I was ready to like start something. Like, let's get it going. Let's see if some magic happens here.
Ripping and roaring.
Yeah. I'm like, let's get at it. I joined one of the teams, and we actually wound up winning that weekend. It was a real estate thing. Basically, we wanted to blow up the NAR.
What's the NAR, Nate? Sorry.
National Association of Realtors.
You know they're being blown up right now. Yeah.
It's funny what's being done to them is exactly what we were told. But after spending a month on that one, we were told, like, you're going to need to just hire a team of lawyers. So raise a bunch of capital, and your startup is going to be lawyers suing the NAR.
So it sounds like this business got started as a rivalry to real estate. Is that right?
Well, not so much that, no, but I happened to be there, and the reason I mention is that at that start weekend is not so much to plug that, but like it's about the randomness of how things start. One of the folks that was kind of one of the mentors at that startup weekend, I was talking to him about my background, some of the stuff I wanted to do, and what I was interested in, and said, I really want you to meet somebody because they've got this idea and they're really not sure how do they move forward on this. We met and had a few conversations over the next few weeks and started to realize, like, yeah, okay, I think there's something here. The premise, the problem that we're trying to solve is that cybersecurity risk is increasing. So true statement at the time. This is 10 years ago, but it's difficult for small and medium-sized businesses to address it or do anything about it. So, when you start looking at the market, it looks pretty good because there's over 6 million SMBs that would be in your target space there. And
Nate, what's an SMB, just for people?
Oh, right. So small to medium-sized business.
Perfect.
So basically, you're looking at companies that are under 100 employees. That was sort of the problem we were trying to tackle, and then it was all right, well, we need to figure out what are we going to build to solve this problem. And my co-founder had a really interesting idea. Effectively, it was like, let's automate what a CISO or chief information security officer would do. Because large companies will have a CISO, they'll have several. It gives small and medium-sized businesses a path to improving their cybersecurity risk.
So it sounds like you guys were trying to automate some of those affordances that larger companies have. More resources can kind of invest more into cybersecurity, all that. But that, I mean, sometimes with that big of a market, it's hard to know where to kind of zone in on, I imagine. Where'd you guys start with that? Because I feel like if everybody kind of has a need, it could be harder to kind of identify your target customer.
Yeah, it is. So being in a co-working space, turns out you're surrounded by a lot of SMBs. Right? So that was the first place we started, was going around and talking to some of the folks inside Flywheel. We then start to go to the chamber, and the local chambers are a great spot too, because you can set up these kind of do talks, lunch and learns, or just start talking to people and trying to get a sense of what they're doing. And that, this is for anyone that ever works with me. I harp about know your customer, like the importance of that. Like I can't attach enough value to that type of activity.
And so it sounds like you guys kind of had your market of smaller companies, right? Like smaller SMBs. I'm going to start using that term because that's not in my normal everyday vocabulary, but I like it. It's nice. It's succinct.
Yeah.
But were you guys targeting like a certain industry?
Yeah, so we didn't have really a target industry. Now, what I would say is we sort of carved out a few industries that didn't seem like they would be good fits. A local auto dealership, probably not going to be in our target space in the near term. We needed some folks that had that at least relied on technology. You get into some of these places like accounting firms and law firms and things like that. Looking back, I think that's one thing we should have done differently. We should have been far more focused on like, we're going to go after one industry to begin.
It's like niching down in the beginning and then maybe expanding out of there.
So we were thinking of more of a platform that was industry agnostic. But I think when going for the MVP, what we should have done is said, well, yeah, that's the ultimate goal, is that it can work across industries, but let's focus on the way you solve cybersecurity risk for this industry, and then move into some others.
So you went from real estate, changing up that market, and now you're doing cybersecurity.
Mm-hmm.
You have funding, and now you're trying to create your MVP. What did that process look like?
That right there is one of the better lessons I've learned, just from because it's changed the way, when I've built my other companies, I've completely changed the way that we built the MVP. Part of that was I went and taught myself how to build databases and to work with APIs, work in the analytical layer, and build front end.
That's all?
Just a couple things.
Learning, yeah. It's
So Nate, you became a full stack developer, and then
I should have done. Now, I should have done that before we did the cyber thing. That would have been better. But where I made a mistake in this one was I did not do a good enough job of judging the ability of the folks to build the MVP. Like, what does that really take to be able to do that? Like, can you actually? It's one thing to say agile, but do you actually behave in an agile manner? Saying you're agile because you use Jira or whatever doesn't mean you're actually agile.
When you say agile, what do you mean there, Nate? Like speed, or?
It's a way to, when you're building your product, it's a willingness to sort of not be beholden to a specific trajectory that you're on. So what wound up happening is, so we're building MVP, and we started over time having more and more disagreements. Like that's one of the things we were kind of arguing about. Is I was like, we need to just go fast. There's a disagreement about, like, it felt like we had to build the ultimate cybersecurity thing for us. Like our thing's going to be the ultimate tool. Like your MVP doesn't need to do that because you're just trying to prove out use cases, the features, the workflows, and all that sort of thing. So we were getting it built. It was just that we were really struggling, and what it meant was if we weren't moving fast enough. Because of that going on, I think we started to sort of lose some engagement with the beta customers, things like that, and not even just losing the direct engagement with them, but we stopped thinking about them as much as we were kind of creating priorities that really didn't need to be priorities at the moment. We stopped prioritizing what the customer wanted and started putting what we thought we needed. That's why I harp so much on KYC.
Know your customer.
Thank you. That took me way too long.
Like a dictionary of acronyms. This guy is in the startup space. You can tell.
Quick question for you, Nate. You mentioned about falling away from being agile. Why do you think founders fall into that trap? Do you think it has something to do with a sense of perfectionism or a fear of failure? I know I've fallen into that trap before, so just curious what your thoughts are on why people fall that way. Yeah,
that's a good question. I guess I got a couple thoughts on that. One of it is I don't know how much it's actually taught. Like I feel like that agile is a philosophy, really. It's not like here are the 5 steps of things I do that make me agile. I just don't think it's taught very well, honestly. But I think the other thing on that too that I just thought about, Tyler, was I was having this conversation with one of my colleagues a couple months ago. I really like the Steve Jobs biography. It's a really interesting book.
It's a good one. Walter Isaacson.
Yeah. You could get the impression that like sometimes your customer just doesn't know, and you have to do it. You have to make it. And I hear that sort of thinking sometimes. And the reason why I think that sort of philosophy is wrong is that the customer already did think about the iPod concept before they had it. They had their Sony Walkman. I thought about that. I'd love it if like all of my cassette tapes at the time could all be in one spot. I think a lot of people thought about that. The use case was already there, and customers had already solved for it. But if you take that philosophy, though, it suggests that you don't need to have that customer focus, and I think that thinking filters down into the way you build your products and stuff like that.
I feel like I loved that book, the Steve Jobs book. It's great.
Yeah.
I do feel like it could maybe teach some bad habits though, if you read it, because he was such a perfectionist, Steve Jobs, to the point where he would stop a project because he didn't like how the calculator looked.
Right.
Like that doesn't work in normal startup land.
It worked out for him, but that you're correct. On average, that doesn't work.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, I feel like Apple had success, especially in the early stages, not because of Steve Jobs, but in despite of some of his tendencies. I mean, he was a visionary. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of things that he did that if you try to do that with a normal startup, you're gonna be on this podcast talking about your flop.
Guys, I'd like to know everyone's opinion over or under on black turtlenecks. That's it. Fans or not a fan?
Josh, that's not an over-under question. I don't think you understand what an over-under is.
I don't actually know what over-under is, okay? You know what? Guys?
It's a yay or nay black turtlenecks. And the correct answer is no, Josh, you could not rock a black turtleneck.
And because you asked that question, Bowman, you need to wear a black turtleneck next pod. I hope you own one.
Is the over-under like the bottom of your neck? Like over that?
Yeah.
Or like a t-shirt?
Bowman, you should be thanking Nate for saving your question. I'm just putting that out there right now.
This is the man. How high should it be for next week is the real question.
I think you got to go full Lizzie Holmes all the way up.
I want you to be able to use them as earmuffs. Like that's how high I want the
All right. It's on.
turtleneck.
Turtleneck time.
Yeah.
Next episode.
Get one of those from like one of the Scandinavian countries there. This is,
Yes.
And Bowman's now looking on Amazon trying to find a Scandinavian turtleneck. Nate, let's hop back in. Let's hop back into the cybersecurity business. And one question I neglected to ask you: what was the name?
Threat Sketch.
I like that.
So we will sketch out your threat landscape. We'll try to fix it for you.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. Where we left off was you guys were in the MVP stage.
Right.
How did you guys end up building the MVP and then going to market, or how did that process look like after the building was complete?
Yeah, so we get it finished, and then it's MVP is good enough, I think, and then so that's where we start doing the sort of going out to the customers, and it goes okay, but we're getting that feedback of like, yeah, okay, I mean that's helpful, but what next? So we're the MVP product is telling them about the things they need to do, but then like what? Okay, well then what? So after going through all of this, like customer, like getting the feedback and everything, you realize like, well, this is not solving the problem. It's telling them they have a problem. It's not telling them what to do. We need to solve that.
It's kind of like you guys had like the radar, right? You're like, oh, here's all your potential threats, but
Right.
you didn't give them the gun to shoot them down.
You don't have the force field that keeps everything from coming in.
That was a better example.
That was that was better than my explanation.
So we have to have this kind of like come to Jesus moment, the big like, okay, we got to sit down and figure out what we're doing here because this is not working. We sit there and start thinking about, all right, well, let's reassess what's going on here. What's happening here? And then this is when we're starting to see the insurance companies coming out, starting to roll out more cybersecurity. It's not just the insurance companies that are involved in managing cyber risk. It's the legal side. So after going through all of that, we decide we're going to go after the lawyers are the ones that are no one's trying to provide products to help them engage with their customers. So then we start building a second MVP targeted at the lawyers.
So you pivoted to now focusing a little bit more on like lawyer firms.
Right.
Is that the right term? Lawyer firms? Law firms.
It's
Jeez.
Yeah.
There it is. Law firms.
Yeah, it's like lawyers, just legal and compliance. And so pivot into the legal space, and that means we've got to collect some new sets of data. So we collect all this data in all the states. Have a new feature in our web app that lets you access and look at all that data. We go back out and we start getting a warmer reception with the law firms as we do that. But again, this took like a year to do all that. That was not an easy task. So we do all that, and I think we get there. It's just that doesn't have enough of the stuff. Again, it starts running into that other problem of like, well, what next? What next? That's where we had to, so we got to that point, and that's where you could start to see that, okay, well, this isn't going well at all now. I mean, it wasn't going well, but that's when we started to see that, this is struggling. We were effectively trying to tell them how to solve a new problem and not understanding what is going to make the most sense for them to solve these problems. It turned into a type of like solution searching for a problem. So, and I think basically what was happening is SMBs were just, and it turns out, I think that they were just going to default to just saying, you know what, I'll just buy the insurance policy. It's easier for me to just buy a policy that covers my cyber risk. And then the insurance companies started offering tools to help you manage that risk, which makes sense. That the insurance companies are very incentivized to do that.
Yeah, and it sounds like that would be almost a competitor to you at that point, right? Like,
correct.
And now you got
And
companies with a lot of money giving free tools to their covered people, and then where do you go from there? It's kind of hard to come back from that.
Correct. So the pivot we should have made was to pivot into the insurance market.
So all that went down, and at that point, Nate, did you guys just kind of throw in the towel, or you try to pivot for a third time?
And that was the thing, is like, do we pivot or not? And we tried. So I wound up doing an engagement. So like, well, maybe there's a merger we can facilitate. And we got a few hits and had some really good conversations. And it just, we weren't far enough along. We didn't have enough traction to make sense for an M&A. Yeah. So we decided after all of that, we're just going to put this to bed, and, had to make that decision, which is hard.
A tough one.
Yeah.
Tough thing to do. Well, Nate, last question here before we conclude the interview, and that would be, if you were to take, I don't know, your top 2 lessons from the cybersecurity business, what would they be?
Well, the number one is going to be know your customer. To me, that's just the most important thing.
I'll make you a shirt with that on it, Nate. Know your customer.
It could be Flop Podcast branded. That can be one of our new line of merchandise.
Yeah.
I like some podcast merch.
I
like that.
Coming soon.
As long as you got it in black, I'll wear that. I mean, that's all I wear, black t-shirts.
We got one customer. We already got a customer, boys. Let's make it happen.
So yeah, KYC is the most important, and I'll say this, even as an investor in the venture space, that's one of the things that when I'm interviewing founding teams is really understanding that, how well do they understand the space and how their product, their idea fits in, and so forth. I think the other one is it's team. It's one thing to understand their technical capabilities, but it's also important to understand their capabilities as a person, their ability to work in the startup space. I would say it's not just agile, but it's the ability to deal with uncertainty.
But Nate, the startup space is just full of certainty. Like, you just have to manifest it into existence, and then that's when you have success. Isn't that right, Tyler?
Just believe. The only thing that matters.
Well, Nate, thank you for sharing your story and all those lessons learned. Super helpful. Yeah. I think everybody got a lot out of it. Our next segment, Bowman with Find the Flop.
Ooh, all right. Let's do it. So I'll do a quick overview of the game for anyone new. So the game is, I'm going to list out a couple different companies or products, and my 2 besties here are going to try and guess which one of them flopped or failed. 3 of them are going to be great successes, and 1 didn't do so well. Just a quick score update from the past. Wes has 10 points, Tyler has 3, and the guests are absolutely winning every single time. So today's theme is companies that either boomed or flopped during the tough times that was the pandemic.
Pandemic. I love it.
All right. Round 1. Gym Giants and Sleep Innovators. Number 1. This company is called Planet Fitness. It's known for its judgment-free zone. Number 2. 8 Sleep, a New York-based sleep fitness startup. It has temperature-cooled sleeping performance gear. Wow. And number 3, Gold's Gym. And number 4, Include Health, which is a digital healthcare platform providing services to employers for their employees' benefit.
Nate, I'm going to need some intel on Include Health. Do you have any intel on them? Just so everyone listening, Nate works in the healthcare startup space as well.
It was formerly called Grand Rounds Health. That helps at all. From San Francisco.
So a name change, huh?
All right. So Bowman, we have Gold's Gym, Planet Fitness, Include Health, and what was the first one?
8 Sleep, the New York-based sleep fitness startup.
8. Spell 8.
EIGHT.
Is it? Did they use the number 8, or is it? Was it 8? Like
They spelled it out. They spelled the whole thing out.
Josh, can I ask a question? When you say pandemic times, is this just 2020 or 2020 till now?
It's 2 to 3 years. It's 2020 to 2023 ish.
That's important for the gyms, right? I mean, if you're just saying only 2020, that really disqualifies the gyms. But if you're saying 2020 to 2022, 23, that changes things.
My heart wants to say 8 Sleep, but I'm going Gold's Gym. No, 8 Sleep. 8 Sleep. Locking it in. 8 Sleep.
He doesn't
Stupid.
believe in the temperature cooled mattresses.
Huge mistake. I already know you're wrong. And the reason I know you're wrong is because you don't listen to the biggest podcasts that are going on right now. You don't know your customer. Because if you did, you would know that Joe Rogan, Andrew Huberman, and all the other top podcasters right now, it's advertised on all of their pods, which means they're probably booming. So I am definitely not picking 8 Sleep. And I also, hold on, you can't reply yet. I'm speaking.
I can reply. I'm replying right now. All I gotta say, Tyler, is scoreboard. I can afford to lose a point here. That's all right. Scoreboard.
When you're done pointing to your rings, let me keep going here. So Gold's Gym is the reason I don't think it's Gold's Gym, even though it seems the obvious one, is you can't cancel a membership at Gold's Gym. It is the scammiest gym that exists. So I think that, and they charge a ton for membership. So I think that they've actually maintained okay. I think I'm going to go Planet Fitness on this. I think if we're including 2023, 24, I'm probably wrong, but if it's from 2020 to 2021, I think they suffered a ton. So I'm going Planet Fitness. I'm locking it in.
Well, I am really, really struggling to remember if either of those 2 gyms closed. I'm also struggling to remember the last time I saw one. Yeah, I'll go with, I'm going Planet Fitness. I think that's...
Smart man.
I'll lock it in.
Oh my gosh, what a strong lock in. Unfortunately, Planet Fitness has grown a lot. It's expanded 2,000 locations in the last 2.5 years from 2020. Yeah.
They give pizza out for free at a gym.
I don't know how.
It's a beautiful business model.
And unfortunately, Gold's Gym, everyone is wrong. Gold's Gym was the one who filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy in the beginning of the pandemic. It had 700 gyms, and they got bought by like a German-based like purchasing group, and a decent amount were all shut down, and some they repurposed, and some they kept. All right, question 2. This one is around the retail renegades out there. So retail was hit a little hard. Let's see which one of these retail locations flopped. Number 1, JCPenney, founded in 1902. Number 2, Harbor Freight Tools, discount tool and equipment retailer. Number 3, Inditex, a Spanish multinational fashion company. It's known for fast fashion products and owns several brands, including Zara.
Zara. I'm wearing that right now.
No way. Get out of here. He's just trolling me 100%. He's also behind my... I got to look around to see him. And then finally, the 4th one is Burlington. They own the Burlington Coat Factory. So that's actually kind of near us on the East Coast here. Which one of them flopped during the pandemic?
I'm locking in the JCPenney.
I hate that I agree with you, Wes, but it's JCPenney.
Yeah.
Hey, copy success. Copy success. I get it.
Yeah. Same here.
All right. You know what? That was the freebie. I wanted that to be in the middle to bring you guys back from the defeat from the first one. Congratulations. JCPenney did flop the absolute hardest. The next round is costume comebacks and mobile eats. Which of these companies failed? And there's also an entire generic industry lumped in here because I like to do that on the last question. Company 1, Ruby's Costume Company. Makes a ton of costumes, wig, Halloween decor. I don't know. I bought like a lot of their stuff in the past. Let me put it that way. Number 2, Food trucks in general. Did they flop during COVID? Number 3, Rooted, a science-based panic and anxiety relief app. And number 4, Chamba, a job hiring platform launched at the start of 2020.
I'm going to go Jamba because people were not trying to go to work in 2020. And if you're a company trying to find people work, I don't think you know your customer very well. Or if you did, you need to pivot quickly. So I'm going to go Jamba. Lock it in.
Damn it, that's the one I wanted to pick. Bowman, can you say the other ones again?
Yes. The other ones are Ruby's Costume Company, Food Trucks in General, and Rooted, the anxiety application.
You know what? Give me...
You want to say it. You want to say it.
Give me Rooted. I think it's stupid. Didn't work. Flopped.
You don't. Okay. Wes doesn't think people got anxiety during the pandemic. Good job, Wes. Good guess. Locked it in.
Yeah, I'm going with the job thing.
The job hiring platform. Unfortunately, Chamba, which focused on helping people in the U.S., particularly the Hispanic community, find jobs, had a challenging period, but then directly after 2020 saw 900% growth in job seekers and has since bounced back. So they made it through the pandemic historically. And they made it. Yeah, that's why I put them on.
Good for them.
Holy cow.
What a growth testament to addressing the needs of the Hispanic community. Look at that. Food trucks did really, really well.
Of course they did.
Mm-hmm. And you know what really failed is Ruby's Costume Company. And this was a huge bummer, by the way, because it's the only family owned. It was one of the biggest and a family owned costume company that made a lot of the costumes you would buy on Amazon that were like the middle high quality. Like if you went to Halloween, you wanted like the full blow up Jabba the Hutt costume. It was a Ruby's Jabba the Hutt. That's the good one. That's how you knew. Now it's not as great. They reformed as Ruby's 2, which is not the same.
So we were all wrong.
Yeah. Chapter 11. Oof, that was a rough one, boys. That's we're keeping the score at 10. Wes 3. Oh, excuse me, 4. Tyler. He bounced up. He's bouncing up.
Wait, which one did Tyler get the first one right?
Tyler got one right.
Which one did he get right?
I don't remember. I have
the JCPenney's one, the one we all got right.
JCPenney.
He did get JCPenney right.
So give me 11 points, Bowman.
Oh, good catch, Wes.
He's not making no ground. No ground.
And that's it for the flop. COVID edition. Nice job.
All right. Next, we have quick hitter questions coming from Mr. Tyler Cope.
Mr. Nate, are you ready?
Let's do this.
Number 1, if you could bring any fictional character to life, who would it be?
I'm going to go Ents from Lord of the Rings.
Do you identify with as an Ent, or what is why Ents?
I could identify with them. That when I read the books, they were the most fascinating thing in my head. When they get mad, they just go bananas. Like you want them on your team, like these docile creatures, and they will just mess everything up.
Okay, Nate. So if you could have a time machine that could either only go forwards or only go backwards in time, which would you choose?
My gut's always I want to see the future. But it feels like every time you go into the future, all the movies, there's some like bad thing that happens, like Back to the Future, right? I'm going to say I want to go back. I think there'd be some cool things to see in history. I'm going to go backwards.
Question number 3. And this one, you can feel yourself a little bit, but the world needs to know, Nate. What would you say is your favorite non-work and non-academic accomplishment?
I know. I made the state finals in high school in the 800 meters. And I didn't win it, but it was the first time I think I'd really proven that like if you work really hard, you can get somewhere.
What was your time? I know you know it.
Oh, I didn't run as fast in the state final. I think I was like 2 on the money. My PR was 157.
Smoking.
But yeah, the guys that won it were out. They were like 152, 151. So
All right, let's say question number 4. Let's say you ran a 1:45.800 and you became famous. Who would you want playing you in the next upcoming Nathan Powell Netflix documentary?
Well, there's only one person, and it's the person I am most mistaken. When I was living in Brooklyn, I've actually signed his autograph maybe half dozen times, and I have some Facebook pictures with me tagged as Jesse Tyler Ferguson, sorry, from Modern Family.
Oh my God! Yeah,
That's pretty. I see it. Okay.
That's happened more times than it should.
The last question is absurd and obscure, but we need to know what you think. How much sawdust could you put into a rice? Do you think you could put into a Rice Krispie treat before people would start to notice?
I'm going to go with 20%.
Ooh.
Because if you get enough of the goo on it,
it's a terrible rice.
All the marshmallow.
I see another business idea coming.
Oh, we could cut costs by 20%.
And increase your fiber at the same time.
Oh, increase fiber.
It's healthy.
Well, that does it for another episode of The Flop. Nate, thanks so much for coming on and hanging out with us for a little bit here. It was super great to hear from you and hear some of your stories.
Yeah, no, I had a really good time. I live and breathe startups. I love working with founders and helping out the community any way I can. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. Hope I can come back at some point.
Well, we'd love to have you. We would love to have you. And if people wanted to reach out to you just to get to know you more or just ask you a question or something like that, what would be the best place for them to do that at?
I'd say LinkedIn and Twitter are probably the best spots, but you'll probably bump into me if you go to any of the startup pitch events and investor things around North Carolina. I'm usually there. So in person or online, either way. Again,
that does it for another episode of The Flop. Be sure to like and subscribe and do all those things to keep on listening to us. Until next time, everyone, take care.